Henshin!
Standing by. Complete.
Greetings, heroes of the internet. I'm Travis.
And I'm Nathan.
And we are the Henshin Men, a podcast that celebrates Japanese superheroes and their high-flying and high-kicking adventures.
In this installment, we will be discussing Kamen Rider episodes 7 and 8. Grim Reaper Chameleon, dual site of World Expo. Shinigami Chameleon Keto, Banpaku Ato. Continuing his battle against Grim Reaper Chameleon, Takeshi Hongo attempts to rescue Tatsuo Sonata and uncover the truth behind the Nazi treasure before Shocker can get their hands on it.
So, Nathan, Nazis.
Nazis. Yahtzees. Yahtzee.
Yeah, Nazi! No. A peek behind the curtain for the listeners. It's been a while since we recorded, because we recorded the first few episodes in a big batch, and then we waited a little while, and now we're recording again. So we've been sitting on this cliffhanger for a while.
And it's been killing me.
So what'd you think of the resolution?
Actually, it was everything that I expected, basically. But let me tell you, I had to resist the urge at least a few times not to jump ahead too early with this. So this episode was wild.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, we ended the last episode with Nazi treasure box and like an invisible villain. So like
where do you go from there? Oh, just wait.
Yeah.
The first thing that I do want to mention here, because this is very noteworthy in terms of cultural stuff, and also because I just talked about this actually on a recent episode of the Monster Island Film Vault, and that is this episode in part was filmed at Expo 70, which was this big World's Fair that was held in Japan in 1970, and obviously the show premiered in 1971. So the second half of this episode, when Hongo is fighting Chameleon-Man and all of those Shocker goons, that wasn't a theme park or anything. That was a World Expo. And that was a huge deal at the time in Japan. It's also noteworthy because part of Gamera versus Jiger was filmed there as well. And if you want to learn more about Expo 70, check out my Monster Island Film Vault episode on it. But let me tell you, it became a huge cultural touchstone for Japan because you started seeing it referenced everywhere.
Yeah, so I like the having that kind of cultural touchstone here, kind of, even brings in a little bit of Gamera history into this.
Mm-hmm. But that was a nice setting there for, it wasn't the entire climactic battle, so to speak, but it was still where most of it took place. I found it astonishing. We're starting to see the extent of Hongo's powers in this, because even when he isn't transformed into Kamen Rider, he's still capable of some pretty incredible feats, like jumping off the top of a roller coaster and not dying.
Yeah. Okay. So the whole roller coaster scene is really probably my favorite part of this whole episode. I thoroughly enjoyed the fights, the choreography, the stunts, everything on this roller coaster. Because yes, it is stunt work. They're not actually fighting, but still just being on the tracks of a roller coaster and trying to do stunt work and film fight scenes, that's tough. That's gotta be tough.
Oh yeah, very much so. And we also saw some other interesting little things. Kind of, we're getting a little bit more of the rules. We're being shown more of the rules about how Hongo works as Kamen Rider. I noticed in this one, and the narrator actually makes this very plain to you, and Hongo's eyes start to blink because we find out that his transformation actually he's a little bit like Ultraman. His transformation can only last for so long.
Right.
And his eyes start blinking. It's almost like a color timer for Ultraman.
Yeah, I think I like that they added the limiter there, and I don't think it's a time limit. I think it's a time limit in the sense of if he doesn't recharge, and the problem is that the way to recharge his powers is with the turbine in his belt. Well, he was trapped in this hole where he couldn't get the turbine to spin to charge his powers up, so he ended up losing his powers. So I think he can stay as Kamen Rider longer if he could just keep the turbine, spinning. But I do really like that scene. Yes, it is kind of cliche, trapping the good guy in a place and then, slowly trying to kill him instead of just outright killing him. But
because the ceiling's coming down to crush him and he's trying to hold it up in true superhero fashion. I mean, heck, there's a famous piece of early Spider-Man art from the 60s where he's basically doing that.
Right.
So it's very indicative of that. Again, continuing what seems to be a very Marvel Comics sort of influence on this show.
Very much so. One thing I do like about this is Takeshi, we see kind of for the first time, Takeshi uses his brains, his smarts, not just his powers to escape. Like he actually uses his intelligence because his powers are failing, so he needs to rely on his smarts. And I thought that was really cool because it's so easy, especially for the time period, to just have the hero escape from traps the same way every single episode. But one thing I do enjoy, even in this early series, is that yes, the hero always escapes, but he always has to come up with a unique way of escaping. It's not the same way every single time. And so that was really cool. So even though this is a dated show by today's standards, I think that it's still unique in that they take the writing, they take it very serious in this show.
Oh, for sure. And I did appreciate that quite a bit.
Now, I want to talk about probably a scene that was probably my favorite thing to happen in this episode, as far as just an individual thing that happened. The evil tongue of death. Because we didn't get that in the last episode.
Well, when you're a chameleon, that's actually a part of. There's been other chameleon-themed villains and characters and all that in media, but they don't always remember the tongue. That's the chameleons are best known for their camouflage, but they're also well known for those tongues because they can fly out, they can extend really far, and they can grab insects for them to eat, and they're really fast. They have to slow when they take video of them doing it. They have to slow it down so you can actually see the tongue come out, grab the insect, and pull it back. The only other time I can think of where we had a chameleon-themed character that played around with that and the camouflage was actually in Mega Man X, because there's a boss in the game named Sting Chameleon who could turn invisible and he would whip you with his tongue.
Oh, nice. So I've talked about some of the highlights from the episode for me. The evil tongue of death, which it's so great. Just in the way it wiggles kind of out of his mouth to begin with before it like launches. It's so funny and so great. I love it.
It is. Some of the highlights for me were some of the stuff. We'll talk about it a little bit. There's a few points that I have on here that we're going to say for the awards.
Right.
But our MacGuffin.
Oh, yeah.
Our Nazi MacGuffin. There was some of these details that they throw into this episode, and I'm just thinking, really? This is very comic bookified. Like, they say that they test a box because Hongo gives Shocker the Nazi treasure box. Right. And they test it by shooting it with a gun, and they say, oh, the bullet went through. This is clearly a fake because the real box can survive a nuclear blast. To which I say, was this made after the war? How would the Nazis know how to make a box that could survive a nuclear blast?
Yeah. Yeah.
I get why it's there for plot convenience, but I'm still just kind of thinking, really?
Yeah. I do like this whole Nazi treasure thing. It makes it feel almost like a Indiana Jones style.
It does feel a bit Indiana Jones-ish, but the idea of recovering Nazi gold or a Nazi treasure is actually a plot that is fairly common actually in a lot of stories. You know, there's some, I think there are World War II movies that deal with that. There are some adventure stories that are post World War II that deal with that. So it's a thing. The Nazis, historically speaking, did hoard a lot of wealth, and it, you know, and nobody knew where all of it was after the war.
Yeah, yeah. I love that the.
But I do love how they say this is worth trillions, and I wrote in my notes trillions in yen, obviously.
Right. Yeah. Trillions in 1971. Yeah. No, they're talking about yen. No. So it is, and it's a very interesting plot. I like that they put like effort into this plot. It's not just a basic simple plot. Like there's some twists and turns in it that's really great. I mean, like we had the cliffhanger from last episode to this episode. It was really great. But the little details.
And it also shows that Shocker needs money to fund their evil plots.
Yes, they need a lot of money. I mean,
come from nowhere.
Right. Yeah. It takes a lot of money to convert people into animal cyborg men.
Yes. It takes money to be an evil would-be world-conquering organization. I mean, haven't you seen G.I. Joe? Half the time Cobra's plots involve making money.
Right. Exactly. We're going to talk about that. Money. We're going to talk about that in the next episode of Henshin Men.
Yes, we will. Yeah. So a little preview of the episode. But I love the not flashback, but the story that we're told by the captured scientist, because it reminds me actually a lot of something that I know is very near and dear to your heart, Travis, and that is Frankenstein Conquers the World.
Yes. Yes.
The guy tells Hongo about how he got the box and how it was shipped from Germany during the war by submarine to Japan, and then they gave them the box so that they could hold on to it with all of its secrets and stuff like that. And I'm thinking, somebody saw Frankenstein Conquers the World.
Yep. Yeah, I was kind of expecting them to open the box and there be like a heart inside.
But no Baragon, unfortunately.
No Baragon. No Baragon. But we did get the evil tongue of death.
Yes. But if I may promote us a little bit, you actually came on the Film Vault, my other podcast, to talk about Frankenstein Conquers the World. So go check that out, listeners.
Also check out Kaiju Weekly, where we talk about Frankenstein Conquers the World, aka Frankenstein versus Baragon, because that was the first episode with my co-host, Michael.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yes,
so yeah, we've both of our own podcasts have done episodes on Frankenstein Conquers the World. So yeah, and now we're here talking about it again. And it's because of those dang Nazis.
Those dang Nazis. Because Nazis are very convenient go-to villains. You don't have to explain why they're evil.
Yeah.
Everyone just knows why.
Yeah, everybody just accepts
it's
it.
them and vampires.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
But like you were saying, I do enjoy the ending. It's very James Bondian. It was really cool. I love the swashbuckling. We got all this swashbuckling action with Kamen Rider at the end when he's literally sword fighting with all the goons. It was great.
Yeah. So Kamen Rider becomes like a sword fighter for some reason.
Yeah. And I also love the fact that this had been established, I think, before this, but now there's actually, and hopefully Shocker wises up to this, they may want to stop throwing Hongo off a building to his death, because we know for sure it's not going to work. In fact,
right,
it's going to be a setback because he the wind from the fall makes the turbine spin. He becomes Kamen Rider before he hits, and he's okay. So
yeah.
That's one way they can't kill him now.
Yeah. But they keep trying. Another thing I really liked is we're getting introduced to some extra gadgets, because now Hongo Takeshi has a remote control on his belt that controls the motorcycle.
Oh yes, remote control motorcycle. Yeah. That's really cool there too. I like that. And some other quick highlights I'll run through. I love the Batman 66 climb for Chameleon-Man at one point. And that almost made my one of my awards.
Yeah.
But I consider that, but I was like, Batman 66. It's that trick where the camera is sideways so they can make it look like he's climbing up a building. They did that all the time.
Right.
In the Adam Batman.
Yeah, you almost expect Sammy Davis Jr. to poke his head out from one of the windows and start talking to him.
Yes. I also think it's ironic that and we'll get into more detail with the awards. I love the irony of the Nazi treasure being buried in a grave marked with a cross.
Oh yeah, we will talk about the grave scene in our awards.
Yes, we'll get to that. And I also concluded, actually watching this episode, that I need to start wearing a mask, because I'm an author. I need to start wearing a mask when I write so I can be the Kamen Writer. Where's that sad trombone? There it is. I don't care. Part of the shtick of the show is puns.
Yeah.
Deal with it.
I'm just sitting here singing Kamen Writer, Kamen Writer, Writer, Writer.
It's great.
So are you going to do the pose and do the writer chop?
Writer chop. Writer stroke.
So yeah.
Do you think writers go around and just add writer to everything that they do just to drive people nuts?
Yeah.
Walk.
Rider walk.
Rider order McDonald's.
Rider number 2 on the toilet.
Man.
So but speaking of rider chopping, I know it's something that we're going to mention more in our awards later on in the episode, but I do like that we are getting new moves. It's not always the rider kick, it's not always the rider throw, but we're also getting the rider chop.
Mm-hmm. Although it's starting to get to the point where I think the filmmakers figured out that that rider kick needed to be his finishing move.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Because honestly, it is probably the coolest one, and as we see later, it became the icon because basically every Kamen Rider has done it since then. Yep.
What did you think? I know we talked about it in the last episode, but what did you think? Do you think that Chameleon-Man's costume still held up, going from last episode to this episode?
For the most part, although this time I actually did see the actor's neck underneath the mask. Didn't quite cover all of his neck, kind of destroying the illusion a little bit, and also calling into question, like, again, how literal do I take this? Are you just enhanced humans with crazy costumes, or are you literally half chameleon? Because I don't know.
Yeah.
Later versions of these characters,
right. And but
to watch Kamen Rider the first, they're definitely mutants.
Right. Yeah. I do think though that as far as of all the ones we've seen so far, this one still is the best costume that we've gotten. And it's definitely better than what's coming after this.
That seems like a great way to transition to the next episode.
Transition.
Transition. Creepy bee woman Kai Hachi Ona. Takeshi investigates as people who had glasses made at Kagemuro's optometry store, including Ruriko, start to disappear.
Now, we mentioned that we've definitely seen some kind of low budget costumes for our villains. And we definitely will see some more low budget costumes for villains. But this one kind of takes the cake.
Oh, the bee woman. Because when I hear bee, as in like honeybee, bumblebee, you know what are the first colors that come to my mind? Yellow for sure, black, certainly not blue and purple.
Right.
This is the gaudiest costume in the show so far. And as soon as Bee Woman appeared on screen, my gosh, it was so hard for me to take it seriously.
Yeah.
I'm just like, and then there are all of these other very questionable just design decisions with this costume.
Yeah, we got the spiral bra.
There's fur on the thing. She's got fur on parts of her costume.
Yeah,
she had a cape too. She had like a little cape.
Yep.
My favorite part.
She had a purple mullet.
Yes, a purple mullet. The costume was mostly blue. But then my favorite one, because they remembered, oh wait, she's supposed to be a bee. I called it the spiral bra.
Yep.
Because they have these bee pattern. I shouldn't be demonstrating like this because it looks terrible. I'm glad this is a video pod. Okay,
Nathan, stop rubbing your chest.
No, not that. It's more like fondling the air. There. Anyway. He has these bee pattern circular markings on her chest area. And I'm thinking, really, guys?
Yep.
Really? And then the actress is wearing basically a cowl.
Yep.
With big old like green eyes, like visor eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And then she has blue and purple makeup on the second half of her face, and it doesn't quite go all the way down to the collar of her costume, so you can see a little bit of her actual skin in some shots. Just the whole thing.
Yeah.
But they want her to be terrifying. They tried so hard to make her scary, and I can't get past the gaudiness. This is 6th Doctor levels of gaudy.
Yeah. Yeah.
For anyone who's seen the 6th Doctor, and his name is subtly escaping me. Colin Baker.
Colin Baker, yeah.
Colin Baker, if you've ever... Colin Baker famously described his costume as an explosion at a rainbow factory.
Yep.
This is up there.
Yeah, this is definitely the worst costume that we've seen so far, and probably of the whole series.
We may have to do a top 10 worst villain of the week costumes when we're done with this.
Probably.
This will be close to the top, if not number 1.
Probably.
Although what's really cool is this is the first female villain of the week that we've had, unless you count the Fisher Squad.
Yeah, which I mean, I guess you can kind of count them, but they didn't really do much as far as they didn't have a personality. This is the first,
other than creepy,
right? Right. This is the first female villain that we've had that actually has a personality and a theme to her. So that was cool.
Yeah. Now, I will admit we did a little digging before we recorded. This character actually did come back a couple of times. She came back in Kamen Rider Decade. They used the same basic design, but I think they tried to improve it a little bit.
Yes. Well, Does come back in this series.
Yeah. Oh, and she comes back in this series. So,
And then she
boy.
comes back later in Decade. And the costume, like you said, the costume is a little bit better. It's still pretty gaudy. But it's a little bit better. And then we've also had characters that were inspired, like, and I mentioned it, I think, when we did our first episode, where I talked about how the trend was set with that first episode, that the first two episodes, that you get a spider villain and a bat villain in every Kamen Rider series, almost every Kamen Rider series. You also get a bee themed character in a lot of them, and I won't say everyone, but you will get them in a lot of them. We looked it up. There's definitely one in Agito, Kamen Rider Agito, which doesn't look anything like this. She looks more bee-like, but you can see the inspiration. She has the white cape. She has the kind of a cowl with the exposed mouth, and she has the sword. So it is very heavily inspired by this. But then we also get a character in Kamen Rider J, the movie, which is definitely inspired by this, because everything is there. The spiral boobs, the exposed mouth, the color scheme with the purple and blue,
and the insect head.
Yeah.
But it was filtered through 20 more years of improved special effects, a slightly larger budget, well, more than slightly, so a larger budget, and the mad genius mind of Keita Amamiya.
Right. Yes. And Keita Amamiya also designed everything for Kamen Rider Zeto, or Zeo, which also had the spider, a spider villain and a bat villain. So, he basically did the three big ones that you see in most Kamen Rider series, or a lot of Kamen Rider series, and he just did them in his own twisted Amamiya way, and boy, is it awesome looking.
It is. But we're not here to talk about Jay or Zeto, at least not yet. So, Creepy Bee Woman. Let's talk about the other big part of this episode: mind control Google glasses.
Yeah, that make you a really bad dad.
Yes.
That guy just shoved his daughter out of the way.
But I was watching this and I'm thinking, oh, mind control through eyeglasses. Good thing I don't wear eyeglasses. And then the episode showed me, no, you're not safe either, Marchand, because they can do it with sunglasses too. Like, I wear sunglasses
because that's how they got Ruriko.
Yep, because she wears sunglasses.
Yeah, speaking of Ruriko, one of the things I do like is she kind of takes on a very, and it's not as modern, as you would get nowadays, but it definitely for the time period was really cool how she took on almost like a Lois Lane type role, where she was willing to put herself in danger to investigate this stuff. And yes, she does have to be saved by the hero, and so she does become kind of a damsel in distress, but she isn't necessarily just a useless character. She is a go-getter. She will get out there and do what has to be done and take risks to do it. And I like that about that character.
Yeah, there's a lot of criticism of the damsel in distress trope, but with characters like Ruriko in this episode, Lois Lane especially, it's not because they're helpless characters, because they intentionally throw themselves into danger, get in over their heads, and then the heroes have to intervene. It's not like Anne from King Kong gets away,
right?
Because she can't do anything.
Yeah, and it's not that they can't take care of themselves. It's just that they keep digging deeper and deeper until they can't get themselves out. So yeah, I love that. But talking about Ruriko in this episode, she's like the slow realization that Takeshi has that it must be the glasses, and so then he's like slowly telling Ruriko, hey, maybe you don't want to maybe wear those glasses, and by the time he finishes telling her and warning her about the glasses have already taken over her mind. It's like, dude, summarize.
just walk up and say, glass is bad, and then take them off. Okay?
Right.
Earrings where you might have to work a little bit and hurt somebody, you could just walk up, grab them, and pull them off. No problem.
Yeah. Now I did like that they released these prisoners. They were able to escape with these prisoners, but then come to find out, it was just a trick all along, that they were still being mind controlled.
The prisoners with the cartoonishly huge numbered signs.
Yeah.
That made me laugh. I have to confess, that made me laugh. It was like Dr. Seuss levels of huge, too. Like thing 1, thing 2. You are prisoner 137.
Yeah. One thing we didn't talk about in the last episode, and he kind of takes a back seat in this one because they don't see him as much, but it's Tobe Tachibana, the mentor character. He kind of takes a back seat in this episode. He doesn't really play as big of a part in this one as he did in the last one. So in the last one that we were talking about just earlier, he went so far as to like dress up in a costume and pretend to be a scientist and everything to and stuff. And that was a funny scene of him with the fake mustache and everything.
And then it's falling off.
Right. but yeah.
Like, put it on. I think they're spying on us.
Right. Yeah. Quickly put it on before they see. And they saw, so they knew. But no, in this episode, we don't get very much Tobe Tachibana.
No, and I think it's because Ruriko takes a little bit more center stage from the supporting cast this time around.
So we get another scene where Takeshi gets captured, which seems to happen a lot.
Oh my gosh. Takeshi needs to trim his nails a little more often, I think.
So I think that was done on purpose. So in the dialogue that at least with the subtitles, it said that the thing they were shooting him with was supposed to cause paralysis. And I think the point of him squeezing his fist so hard was to keep the paralysis from happening. Because then later he's able to break free of the chains, whereas if he was still paralyzed, he wouldn't be able to do that. So to me, in my viewing of it, that's what I think.
Yeah, because I was kind of questioning a little bit. It's like, really, guys, this is Kamen Rider. You know what he can do, and you're putting him in chains.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
But then it's implied that this was all planned all along, so maybe they did it on purpose. I don't know.
Right.
The chains were just for show.
And even though this was the Bee Woman's plan all along, she still punishes one of her subordinates by killing him.
And she kills him for failure, even though she intentionally let them escape. That's how you know she's evil. When she punishes somebody for failure when she intended it. When failure was part of the plan, she still kills the guy.
Right.
Good Lord.
Yeah, and he didn't be like he wasn't like this was but this was your plan.
that would have if he had said that and then she still would have killed, that would have amplified her evilness. Like I said, she's clearly intended to be this terrifying, incredibly evil character, but that costume.
Right. That costume.
I feel like let's start a new hashtag. But that costume. Hashtag. But that costume.
That costume. Spiral bra. from the book of
nutty.
Spiral bra from the book of Saw.
That's a porn parody.
So, also, another point I want to bring up, Takeshi's just casually experimenting on puppies.
Yes.
Like, what?
Yeah. But, besides that, and next week, we're going to talk about that a little bit more. But, the part of that kind of got to me a little bit. He says that because he's experimenting with that because he's messing with he's trying to determine the frequencies that different animals can hear. And he says that dogs have a higher frequency that they for their hearing higher range, I should say, for their hearing than mammals.
But yeah,
and I wrote in my notes, but dogs are mammals, Hongo. Yeah,
right.
IQ of 600.
IQ of 600. Yeah, I know. That's so funny. What also kind of just made me disturbed about the fact that he's just casually experimenting on puppies is that the last episode ended with him picking up the puppies and like, you know, loving on them, and he just picks up these random dogs. Who do those dogs belong to? Why did he just pick up a couple of random dogs and then in the next episode he's experimenting on them? What?
I know. Or does he just wander around looking for stray dogs? It's like, oh, here, come here, Fido, come here. Oh, you'll be great for my experiment.
Yeah, we'll hook you up to some machines.
Yeah. And then you couple that with, then you have to couple that with the fact that he talks to himself a lot. I'm starting to wonder if some of that shocker manipulation to his brain may have done something.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah, I know. He's our hero. No. So
our hero, everyone, the experimenter on puppies.
Is there anything else you want to talk about in this one before we move on to our awards this week?
Kamen Rider now has a weird echo effect on his voice. I don't know why.
Yeah, he has the Batman voice modulator that keeps people from recognizing his voice.
Apparently, you would think people like the Power Rangers would be doing this a little bit more often. I'm just saying.
I would love it if instead of it just being echoey, if it was the coarse, gravelly kind of Christian Bale Batman. I'm Kamen Rider. Where's Ruriko? Where's Ruriko?
Swear to me. Grabs B-Woman. Swear to me.
Oh wait, no, but he's Japanese. Just like so something happens off screen. He's like, Nani?
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 Oh, that would be so. But speaking of Hongo, one thing that this is a nice little, again, a nice theme, a nice continued development of his character. His goal eventually is to become normal. That is a very Marvel-esque thing to do. Reminds me a lot of, say, Bruce Banner as the Incredible Hulk, particularly the 1970s TV show, where his goal was to become normal again, to rid himself of the Hulk. And that's really interesting. Again, going back to something we had talked about in the previous episode, where he is a hero who didn't ask to be a hero, and he doesn't want these powers. He feels burdened by these powers. He wants them gone. And I can understand it because basically Shocker is this pseudo-Nazi organization. Basically, I realized it actually with these last few episodes that we watched. They're basically engaging in eugenics, which was something the Nazis were all about.
Yep.
Because that's what they're doing. They're capturing people. They are altering them. They are enhancing them and turning them into basically brainwashed soldiers.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's all wrapped up in ridiculous comic book trappings, but it comes from a very real, scary place.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I like that you brought up about Hongo just wanting to be normal again, because then it also ties into why he keeps his identity secret. Because at first, when I first watched the series, I was like, well, why is he keeping his identity secret from so many people? I mean, like, the villains already know who he is. Tachibana knows who he is. So why keep it secret from, like, Ruriko? But I kind of like the explanation that he gives as, like, he doesn't want Ruriko to know that he's a cyborg. He's been altered in this way. And I kind of get that. It's like, yeah, you see the monsters that they're fighting, the monsters that killed her father, and you don't want to go up to her and be like, hey, I'm also one of those monsters, but don't worry, I'm not a bad guy. It's like, yeah, I can see why you might want to keep that a secret.
Do you think it might also stem from the fact that I'm not going to sugarcoat it, he's a victim. He was victimized by Shocker.
Yeah.
Do you think that there's an element of shame for him right now personally, and also, coming from a Japanese culture where shame is a big deal in Japanese culture? Do you think that might also play into it?
Yeah, it might.
Because it is very difficult for men in particular to talk about stuff like that. So I wonder if that's playing into it.
Right. Yeah. It's
This is probably a lot deeper than this show has any right to be, but
yeah, I know. That's what I was talking about. I was thinking about, like, cause I know that, Japan has, even though Japan has one of the best, life expectancies in a developed world, they also have some of the highest suicide rates among men. And a big part of that is because, men are taught, their kind of their culture is taught not to express themselves, and and that death is better than shame, that shame is the ultimate, kind of the worst thing that can happen to you. And so yeah, I can totally see that being a motivator. And as a Japanese audience, maybe they would have picked up on that easily, whereas us, it kind of took a little bit for us to kind of grasp that that's something that's motivating Hongo in this series. The now to get back into the happier side of things, I have just written in my notes, Ryder kicked her to the curb.
Yes. Yeah, that's a wait here. I need the appropriate sound effect there. There you go.
Yeah.
Don't use up all of them, man. We got to save some of these for the titles.
Right. I know. Yeah. We got to save the puns.
Yeah. Hashtag save the puns.
As we're going through this, I keep thinking of stuff that we didn't mention in the previous, that when we were talking about the Chameleon-Man episodes. But like the fact that Ruriko shows up on the motorcycle, and Takeshi's like, go ahead of me and tell and tell Tachibana, and like tell him we have a plan. And then he takes the motorcycle she was riding on and rides off on it. Like, wait a minute, you just left Ruriko standing in the middle of this road, huh? Okay, it's not really mentioned in the show, but
and I see also one of your other notes here is a quotation. We've only just opened and we're getting great reviews.
Dun dun dun. That is okay. I want to. So I'll go ahead and talk about it, even though that's going. Spoiler: that's going to be one of my awards. When we get to the awards, but this deserves to be talked about. This guy who works at the eyeglass, the optometry place, he's just. It's just a casual conversation. He's like, "Oh yeah, we've only just opened and we're getting great reviews." And then all of a sudden the camera just zooms in to his eyes and he just has this look on his face. And I vocally said, "Dun dun dun!" Like, what? He didn't say anything sinister, but he gave the most sinister look.
It's just one of those things. You can, if you say the most innocuous line as creepy as possible,
yep,
it can become scary.
Yep. So any other thing you want to talk about before we get into our awards?
Does Shocker have color ranks like in Star Trek now? Because some of the goons have different colors. Like most of them are black, but now we have some guys who are in red.
They might.
So like, are they commanders or something?
Yeah,
I'm just noticing that.
Yeah, they have the science division, the command division, and engineering.
Yeah, and clearly Shocker has never watched the original Star Trek because they would know better than to put their goons in red shirts.
Yeah, although to be fair, even the ones in red shirts, black shirts, any shirts, they all get kind of they all get it.
Yeah. Well, with that, let's move into the awards.
Yay.
This is going to be fun.
All right.
So first up, we have Henshin Kick for the best action scene or move or whatnot in these two episodes.
Best piece of choreography.
Yes, something like that. So what did you have, Travis?
I had the kicking her to the curb. Kicking the rider kick against the bee woman, and then she just falls down. I mean, it's supposed to be a bigger, like, I guess it's supposed to make you think of a ravine, but it was just kind of down the hill.
There are so many quarries.
So many quarries. Japan is just nothing but quarries, if we're to believe Super Sentai.
I once saw somebody joke that he's watched so many shows like this that now every time he drives by a quarry, he keeps waiting for fights to break out and stuff to blow up.
Right. Yeah. Just explosions.
Yeah. Now, my nominee for the Henshin kick was the Raida Chop on Chameleon-Man because apparently it makes him shatter like a mirror. That was kind of an odd effect.
Yeah, that was kind of cool.
Yes, I actually admire the show for experimenting with a lot of weird things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I like it a lot. But I've also kind of nicknamed that a little bit because KR, I call him KR now, did his funny little pose, his little trademark pose, and then he did the chop. And I have hereby dubbed it. If you've been following the show on Twitter, I shared this on the Twitter. I call it the Raida Dab because it looks like a dab.
Rider dab.
Rider dab. And I wrote the caption for the meme says clearly his most powerful attack. Rider dab.
Yeah. Why didn't we come up with that as the name for this show? Rider dab.
Because I hadn't seen enough of the show to see the Rider dab yet. So. And
everybody does a dab. Everybody at home, when you're listening to this episode, do a dab.
Yeah. Anyway, on to Talkin' Toku, best special effect. What do you got?
Yeah, because tokusatsu it basically means special effects. So, and this is a tokusatsu show, so we got to talk about the special effects. We both have the same one. Which is from episode 8, which is the transformation scene where they go full animated kind of rotoscope thing. They've done it before in a previous episode, but this was different. It was a little bit different because he was falling as he was transforming in this one. And I love a good henshin. I love a good henshin.
It looks like comic book art to boot. So, and it's really nice comic book art too. And it's kind of like I think it's meant to be a little bit choppy because it just looks like maybe 4 or 5 frames as he slowly transforms as he's falling. I just think it looks cool. It's very stylized and I like it. So
yeah. I love when they do that. Like you said, one thing I do love about this show is them experimenting with different things. Like a lot of them, are dated by today's standards, but they're doing unique things, which is something that you can't really say about all of the shows from this time period.
Not at all. All right, and then on to Coming At Ya, the best line from the episodes. So I'll let you take this one first too, Travis.
Okay, so the best line for me comes from the episode with the Nazi treasure, of course, because he says, "A treasure worth trillions. Shocker would surely want to use it for evil." And it was pause. It was the pause. Shocker would surely want to use it for evil.
Yes. Who said this line again? Remind me.
That was Takeshi.
Oh,
that was Takeshi. Okay. Is that it? Yeah. And it's like, it sounds so profound because it's like, it's like a realization. They are going to use it for evil. It's like, well,
evil
yeah.
Is going to use the money for evil? Of course.
Right. Yeah, and not to spoil anything, but next week's episode, my award, the same award, also goes to a very obvious line like that too. So I don't know what it is about that kind of line that I find really funny.
Well, my nominee for this award is along similar lines. It's from Kamen Writer, KR. And just to let people know, when I am looking for nominees for this, I am typically looking for lines that are funny, profound, or BA, just so you know. That's my criteria. So mine is, it was a tainted treasure generated by the evils of the human heart, which comes from the end of that episode where Kamen Rider is telling the villains off and saying he did get the treasure, which we'll talk about a little bit more in the next award.
Right, yeah, because we don't get to see the treasure. All this talk about the Nazi treasure, and we never actually get to see it.
It's truly a MacGuffin in every sense of of what Hitchcock meant. It is a MacGuffin. It's the thing everybody wants, but what it is isn't important.
Right, exactly.
So now to my favorite award. What the Henshin? WTH.
Let me get mine out of the way because I feel like we're going to talk about yours longer. So let me get mine out of the way real quick. I already mentioned it. It's the dun 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 moment in the optometry store because that was just silly and funny. And what? Why? Now, Nathan, let's talk about yours because I also want to talk about yours.
Oh my gosh. I did not see this coming. First, I have to set this up.
Yes.
So Kamen Rider transforms, fights all the Shocker Goons and Chameleon-Man at Expo 70. They think they have defeated him, that he is dead. So it's like, haha, we win. We got the box. We know where the treasure is. And then they go off to someplace that I mentioned before. The Nazi treasure worth trillions is apparently in a grave marked with a white cross. Again, I love the irony of it. They start digging it up, and they only have to dig, I think, maybe 6 inches instead of 6 feet.
Right.
That's very deep. And they find a casket that actually didn't have a Nazi logo on it to boot. So it's like they're branding everything.
Yep.
And then they're like, aha. And I'm like, okay, what's going to happen? I'm expecting Kamen Rider to just show up and be like, aha, I'm not dead. But that's not quite what happened. They open up the casket and out pops Kamen Rider. I'm like, how in the heck did you do that? We saw you fall. You were supposed to be dead. How in the heck did you manage to get over here in the interim and bury yourself in a perfectly made grave that did not look like it had been recently disturbed? What?
It was the most Scooby-Doo style logic leap. I loved it so much.
If I was to give an award, like a W2H award for all the episodes that I've watched so far, this one wins.
Yeah.
Out of all the zaniness we've seen so far, this one wins because I don't know how this works.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. How did he bury himself? How did he get there? How did he beat them there when he was thrown off the building?
Yeah, and I mean it's too early for a second rider, so we can't just do that. So I just
what? And why?
It was done in the scripting process just so they could have a ridiculous plot twist finale.
Yep.
So they're like, oh wait, he got beat up and they think he's dead. Just have him pop out of the grave anyway.
Yeah. So so my note for this scene was we're just going to accept that Kamen Rider was in the grave. Sure, why not? Like at this point, sure, why not?
What are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do? It was so great though. It was, like I said, the most Scooby-Doo logic thing that we've seen so far, and I loved it. I just loved it. They open it and it just is like the shock of seeing Kamen Rider just laying in the casket and then just leaps out.
Just add the caption, "Surprise, mother trucker."
Yep, exactly.
Because that's very appropriate at that point. Or hey, well, we'll do the funny censored version I've seen of that line in meme. Surprise, motor scooter. Makes sense. He's like, I ride a motorcycle. You have a scooter. Surprise, motor scooter.
Oh man. So yeah, that was great.
All right, Travis. Now it's time for Minute to Henshin It. I'll let you go first, Travis. Are you ready?
Yes, I am ready.
All right. On your mark, get set, go.
Henshin. Okay. As this show progresses, yes, it becomes more formulaic, as a lot of kids shows, and especially shows from that time period do. But I do like seeing Takeshi using different means to escape from traps that he gets stuck in each week. He does use his brains more than his bronze. He's using logic, and yeah, they are trying and experimenting with new kind of filming techniques and different things that makes it very interesting. I like that he doesn't always rely on his Kamen Rider powers, and you can really see the gold that's underneath the low budget costumes and sets in this series. There's real gold and there's real love put into this show.
Oh, you got 15 seconds left. You want to bank it?
Henshin. Okay. Every time I do that, I do like I do the Iron Chef, quizzing.
Yeah. All right. Now it's my turn. Go. All right. So, as the noob on this podcast to this show, I continue to be amazed at how the show is progressing. When it started, I was not put off so much as a little bit surprised at how low budget it seemed. And especially when you're used to watching newer tokusatsu shows, or even something like Ultraman, which was comparatively had better production values compared to Kamen Rider at this time. But as time has gone on, much like what you said, Travis, I've gotten used to it. I've learned to appreciate it. And I'm really starting to see the gold that hopefully does not belong to Nazis underneath all of this, and seeing the love and the care that is being put into the show, despite its shoestring budget and, surprise motor scooter.
All right.
But before we close up shop with this episode, we have our first iTunes review to share with everyone, Travis.
Yes, we have one that's called Ramen. I'm going to be doing that a lot, especially since I keep. So
Ramen Rider.
It's Ramen Kiter. No, Kamen Ride or Die. And it was written by Hamilton_54. First off, before I read it, Kamen Rider Die. That's another podcast. Maybe he meant to review this meant this for a different podcast. Let's see.
Possibly.
So yeah, he said, I've been looking forward to the release of this podcast since hearing about it on the Kaiju Weekly podcast. Travis and Nathan do a fantastic job at breaking down all the Henshin goodness contained in a lot of these series. It's no surprise they started with Kamen Rider, and I'm totally here for it. So far, the first couple of episodes have been a lot of fun and very interesting to listen to. I'm looking forward to hearing more high-kicking adventures from the Henshin Men.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hamilton 54.
Yes, thank you very much. A person that we do not know in real life, and doesn't happen to be the co-host of one of our podcasts.
And a frequent guest on the other? No, not at all.
No.
But in all seriousness, people, I just want to let you know, we would really appreciate it if you would leave reviews for the show, whether they be on iTunes or hopefully we'll be on Podchaser. I keep checking Podchaser. We're not there yet, but maybe we need more episodes. But feedback like this is the lifeblood of podcasters. It really helps us. It really helps keep us going. And it also makes it easier for more tokusatsu superhero loving fans like yourself to find the show.
Yeah.
So thank you very much.
And also, we don't mention it when we're closing out the episodes, but if you want to email us and let us know what you thought of the show, or to give us suggestions on what you would like to see us cover in future episodes of the Henshin Men, you can do that. Henshin Men, that's HENSHIN men @gmail.com. And so we want to say thank you for listening to the Henshin Men, a tokusatsu appreciation podcast. You can find links to all of our social media in the description of this episode. You can listen to more of me on the Kaiju Weekly podcast and listen to more of Nathan on the Monster Island Film Vault. If you found some enjoyment from this podcast, like we said, consider giving us a 5-star rating on iTunes. And until next time, what are we going to say, Nathan?
It's time for us to vanish into Henshin air.